Do you love sports? Then you should know about STEM. Because maximizing nutrition, analyzing peak muscle performance, calculating the perfect shot, and more are all made possible by science, technology, engineering, and math. In fact, there are more careers than ever in sports science. So if you have a passion for sports, then think about getting involved in STEM and improve everyone's game on and off the field. Get inspired at shecanstem.com.
You're watching WLAE, New Orleans Public Television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villeries Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villeries provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villeries Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
C&C Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, C&C provides patient-centered care for your entire family. C&C Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good afternoon and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we'll cover all the home teams as we always do. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans. To break it down for us, Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director at Channel 6 Sports. Fletch, welcome to the show, bud.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I hope the casual and the glasses is okay today.
Good look. Good luck.
Yeah, I'll put the contacts and the suit on like you later tonight.
There you go. Before we get started, first of all, again, we have not spoken to you since you got back from Paris. How was it?
It was like a fairy tale. I mean, I almost feel guilty talking about it because it was a work trip and I did 23 days of work. People are like, did you have any time off? I'm like, no, but like work was, I mean, people go to the Olympics from around the world. So I think the Olympics anywhere would have been an amazing experience. My brother got to cover too. I have friends that have gotten to cover the Olympics. So the Olympics was like one of those bucket list sports journalist trips. And then 23 days in Paris, you know, would have been an amazing alone by itself. Any trip to Paris would be great. I'd never been before, but it was beyond words spectacular. Paris did an amazing job handling it, the people visiting, how they operated, the venues, and then covering it was amazing. It was the next level experience that I don't know if I'll ever be able to cover anything like that again. It was, I jokingly say it was like a fairy tale every day. And some people after 23 days, and look, the days start, they're 7 hours ahead of Central Time. So the day started for us at about 8 a.m. and it ended every night depending on what you were covering between 8 and midnight. So it was like 12 to 15 hour days. And some people, you know, comforts of home, ready to be back home. And I said, sure. But it was 23 days, and if they would have told me it was 30, I would have had no problem staying 7 more days. It was just amazing experience.
Right. Now, again, I asked this on the radio show. Your stand-ups, how many? And again, how did you keep up?
I did. So every third day, I was there for our parent company, Hearst, and then for the NBC affiliates around the country. So our work could go out to Billings, Montana, or San Francisco. And then Hearst affiliates throughout, our parent company owns 30 TV stations in Kansas City, Boston, Baltimore. So our work would be seen at those places. So every third day, you did 6 hours of live shots. It was called Coast to Coast, and it would start at the East Coast in Boston and end at the West Coast, like in Sacramento, and it was 6 hours, and every day it was like 50 live shots of like, here's what we're doing, here's what's happening, and we had different topics so the stations got to pick. Do you want topics 1, 2, or 3? Is it like a report that I tossed to? Is it a Q&A? So over every 3 days for 23 days, it ended up being hundreds of live shots, and it was great. And then I got to cover events like Ledecky when she broke the 1500 meter. I was there in Paris when Team USA made it to the finals. Well, one, beat Serbia to get there, which was an unbelievable game, and in a too close for comfort. And then when they beat France in Paris, because that was one of those amazing moments. You know, the home team with Victor Wembanyama and Rudy Gobert and Evan Fournier making it to the gold medal game in the heart of Paris against Team USA. It was just off the charts, and it was a pretty spectacular event to cover. So not only did I do a lot of live shots, but we did a lot of reports on news of the day, and then we tried to cover as many locals as we could. I was there, unfortunately. Great family, great run. I hope they're back in LA with Taryn Cloth and Kristen Nuss, the volleyball players from LSU, as well as some other local Olympians or Olympians with ties to our area. I got to cover them as well. So again, just one of those. I could go on and on and on. I know we're going to talk about the Saints, LSU, and everything else, Pelicans, but it was, I don't have a vocabulary expansive enough to talk about how amazing it was.
What an experience.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Thanks for letting me talk about it, because I could go on and on and on.
I wanted to bring it up today. Also, I want to bring up that, again, the Saints are on 6 this week. Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, we'll be airing the game on Monday night. Thank you for that. So James Hurst and Sharif Ishaq will be in Kansas City. Jim Mora will be here with myself and Kendall Duncan, and pregame coverage starting at 4 o'clock. You can watch the game on Channel 6, then postgame coverage immediately after with Dennis Allen, Derek Carr. Let's hope it's a big win. You know, Carr, I think I was looking at some of the numbers. He played there a lot because he was with the Raiders in the same division. I think he's 1-8 in Kansas City. Dennis Allen's 1-5 in primetime games as the Saints head coach. So the numbers don't favor them, but Casey's banged up, and maybe they catch him at the right time, and we see the Saints that we saw in weeks 1 and 2.
Yeah, let's hope we do. Again, and also game on every Sunday night, right?
Yep, Sunday night after football. Late now, Sunday night football on our news, and then game on every Sunday night. So if you don't stay up late, maybe just set your DVR and watch it on Monday morning. The
big talker right now is, again, Davante Adams asking for a trade from Las Vegas. Again, the ties to Derek Carr. And again, the Saints may have an interest, or again, there's an interest from Adams in the Saints. The contract is huge. Again, what will be prorated from this year's contract, and $44 million over the 2 following years. Again, for Adams on the books right now. What are your thoughts about, again, the Saints making a move for Davante Adams?
So I have 2 thoughts. One, I think maybe it's a little too rich for the Saints' blood, because I think it's going to be a high-value draft pick, at least one. Not a first, but like second, third.
They're looking for a second and third.
Yeah. Like McCaffrey went for 3 seconds. Now he's younger, and it was a different situation from Carolina. But I could see a bidding war where it's a second and a third. Those are 2 high-value draft picks. Catherine Terrell, who you have on your show, and we're both, respect, and is a good friend of mine, she does a lot of the cap stuff and said that the Saints can make it work. Their cap situation is already a mess in 2025, so why not just continue to pile on? They would have to do some serious cap gymnastics to make it work, but they can make it work. That's where Mickey and Kai, are wizards and do a great job. So I feel like maybe it's too rich for their blood. Maybe it's just putting way too much pressure on a situation that is already at the brink. But here's the thing. Mickey Loomis is all in. I mean, they've doubled down on Dennis. They've doubled down on Derek Carr. They made moves to keep Tyron, in DeMario, in the guys that they feel are key guys this year. So if you're in it to win it, and the NFC is pretty wide open right now. I mean, I don't necessarily know if I believe in Minnesota undefeated. I think San Francisco's look good, but McCaffrey's out, and they haven't looked superhuman. I really like the Lions. I think they're really good, but I don't know if they're world beaters just yet. I don't know if I believe in Philly. Like, if the Saints feel like we're in it to win it, step on the gas, because we don't care about next year. The Rams did that a few years ago. That whole thing of, pardon my, I'm not going to curse, but like F the picks. They had the T-shirts with their general manager, Les Snead. They traded away draft picks. They did big contracts. They went all in, and they won the Super Bowl. They got Odell Beckham. Stafford, they traded for Stafford. They did all these crazy moves, and they won the Super Bowl. But then the next year, they followed it up, injury, bad cap situation, with the worst year ever in the modern era for a Super Bowl champion. But they won a Super Bowl. Like, I look at the Saints and say, you know, Mickey's a former card player who's like, let's do it. All in. Chips all in.
Right.
If you really believe in Dennis, and you really believe in Carr, and you really believe in this team, there's a path to saying, let's do it. Let's go all in. Chips in. Let's send the signal right now, and let's step on the gas and go for it in the NFC. So I could see him doing it. I still think at the end of the day, they've put too much pressure on their cap in 2025. It's a mess. And I don't know if they want to give up more high-value draft picks, because they've maneuvered a lot in recent years, and it hasn't really worked out.
True.
I mean, they have the high-value picks that they have moved up for and made have not worked in the first round.
Yes.
So where they have had success is the second and third rounds. Don't give up those picks. Those are the guys you've built your team with, the Pete Warners and the Alante Taylors and the Paulson Adibos. Like, these are the guys that the Eric McCoy second-round draft pick. This is where you've actually done well. I don't know if you give up more of those picks for a one-year rental potentially that's going to damage your cap even further.
Yeah, and then, again, my thought is, again, you have bigger needs right now if you're looking to be able to go into the trade market. And, again, you need offensive line help. You need a big back.
Yeah.
Okay? I mean
look, Kamara can't keep doing what he's doing. I mean, Kamara, look, Taysom, I think, my gut tells me, being there Monday, listening to Dennis, I don't think good news is coming on Taysom Hill in his abdominal or his rib injury. Kamara, it's been reported, has been playing with a broken rib. How much more pounding can he take? And then you're right, the offensive line is being, it's like, what is it like, you know, Doc in Back to the Future, like he's holding it together, like right now in pieces. So the receiving core and the pass catchers, to me, have not been an issue. Sure, does Devontae make you far more versatile and dangerous? 100%. But I agree with you that if they're going to make a move, it may have to be a more subtle move, because McCoy may not be back as soon, or he may not be the same, or Ruiz's injury is more serious, or we just can't keep asking Alvin to just take this pounding that he's been doing, and Kendre, who knows when he's coming back. Right,
and to your point with Alvin, again, I talked a little bit about it on the radio show yesterday, again, since Taysom went down, 29 touches against Philly, 26 touches against Atlanta. That's 55 touches in 2 games. Again, he's responsible for 61% of the rushing yards. He's taking a pounding right now. And again, that's not even talking about, again, what he's doing in terms of the passing game as well. He is their offense with Taysom out.
And again,
him and Olave.
And look, here's the thing. This is where I agree with Dennis Allen. I was there on Monday, and people were talking about, you didn't have Taysom against Philly. Taysom went out against Atlanta. Your offense seems to stall. And I actually agree with Dennis Allen. Dennis goes, I don't look at Taysom the same way you all do. Like, if Taysom goes out, the offense shouldn't sputter.
Agreed.
Taysom is a role player. And again, he's a nice chess piece, and he's a nice weapon. And I am the biggest Taysom stan that there is. I love Taysom Hill. I thought he should have been the starting quarterback years ago.
I remember.
No competition with Jameis Winston. They should have just made him the starter after going 3-1 when Breeze was out that final year. But I just I don't love that narrative of Taysom's out and our offense stalled. Dennis is right. You still have Kamara. You still have Olave. You still have Shaheed. You still have Juwan Johnson. You still have Foster Moore. You still have weapons that you can deploy in Kubiak's system. If Kubiak is so handcuffed without Taysom, then the season is lost. Like, then the offense isn't as good as people think it is. Drew Brees played games without Sproles, without Jimmy Graham, without Marcus Colston. And like, we weren't saying, boy, Peyton and Brees, man, oh man, Jimmy Graham's out for a couple of weeks. His offense is done. They're cooked. Like, if and that's where I agree with Dennis, is if we're all saying Taysom Hill's out, offense isn't the same, then they're just then the season's lost.
And again, look, I agree. He's a 34-year-old. And look, I hate to say gadget player, but gadget player. He's a gadget player, and I get it.
And he's a really good gadget player.
Right, 7 different positions. That, you know, they're getting the keys on how the defense is going to play. I get all that, but you cannot again. Develop an offense that's predicated upon a 34-year-old gadget player that your offense falls apart when he's not there.
Here's the thing: San Francisco is dealing. They lost the Offensive Player of the Year. Yet they're still functioning okay. Again, not like they could function with him, but they're still functioning okay. The Saints can't say, we lose Taysom Hill. That would be like the Niners losing Kyle Juszczyk and going, man, oh man, wheels came off. Wheels came off. Like, it's like, that's just foolish. Like, so to me, I love Taysom Hill. But all this narrative of, boy, oh boy, do they miss him. They miss McCoy. Like, they miss their best offensive lineman who calls out the protections and the checks. Like, that's who they miss more than anybody, like, on the offense. But it
feels like there's a lot of reliance with Kubiak on Taysom.
Yeah, well, again.
I mean, almost like you're building a machine that has a part that's one of a kind, and when that part goes out, you're done.
Yeah, again, then my thing is this. Then Kubiak's not as great as we think. This team's not as great as we think, and this team isn't going anywhere because, look, the one thing I was always concerned about Taysom, I've told you, when Taysom took over for Drew Brees in 20 and went 3-1 as a starter, his passing numbers were solid, the plays he makes with his feet, I thought Sean Payton, and I love Sean Payton, I thought Sean Payton should have just said, he's my dude. Like, Sean Payton found Taysom. He developed him. He hyped him. He played him when everybody thought Jameis is the guy. It's like, no, Taysom's the guy. I thought Sean Payton should have said, Taysom's my guy. This isn't a competition. Because in practice, arm talent, Jameis, I knew was going to win that battle. But the one thing I've always been concerned about with Taysom, and look, it concerns me with Jaden Daniels right now, is this is a big man, physical league. And can you continue to take that kind of pounding? Like with Alvin Kamara, the physicality of this league from defensive players is intense. And so, again, to think that your offense was built around Taysom, when has Taysom ever played a full season? He's a super. And
now he has to do things he has never done before.
Yeah,
when you put him at the fullback position, the halfback position.
I know.
And then look, the blocking, the wham blocks that he's got to get involved in now. Before he's running quarterback power, where he had extra blockers in front of him. Yes, he's a physical player, but you're asking him to do things at 34 that, again, I don't know if he can sustain it.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I agree 100%. I just don't, like I said before, I don't love that narrative of, and I get it, like in social media in the fan world, but I agree wholeheartedly with Dennis Allen. When he said it, I don't look at it the same way because he's right. Because I think he knows if our offense is going to fall apart because a gadget player is out, then we are no good. We're just no good. Like we're no good. We are a 7-10 team if that's the case. Carr's better than that. Olave's better than that. Shaheed is better than that. Kamara's better than that. Like if you lose 4 of those guys, you go, whoa, now we're doomed. Now, but like to lose Taysom, and I know we keep talking about it.
But there's a void at again, really the lack of a big physical back. And Miller's proved nothing. Williams has proven that he's a very good blocker, again, in the offense, but not the physical runner, that everybody thought he was going to be based on his touchdowns that he got with Detroit. They need that player, again, and they don't have that in the offense. So who gets the pounding? Kamara.
Sure, that's what I mean. And again, look, when this offense, I go back, it's a different time, different place. But I think back to, Kamara in Ingram and the ability to be versatile and not have to put the days of the NFL of the Deuce McAllister 30-carry bell cow 235-pound back.
Agreed.
Those days. I mean, look, maybe Derrick Henry can do that, but he's not even that guy anymore. Those days are over. Offenses have evolved. Things have changed, and Kamara's never been that guy. I think back. I referenced to the first year without Drew Brees. That first year that Peyton played without Drew Brees, Kamara's usage was off the charts, and he ended up getting dinged up and hurt and missing, I think, 3 games because of injury. Because he kept Jameis very close. Yes, like he didn't let Jameis cook, so to say. So it was Kamara. And I remember after that physical game in Seattle, he was getting banged up. And so that's not sustainable for 17 games to keep utilizing Alvin Kamara this way.
And then what do you do if he goes out with a running game? There is no running game.
You're in real trouble.
And also, again, what he means to the passing game as well. Offensive line. Again, we know that McCoy is out at least 6 to 8. Again, we don't know the extent of the injury right now for Ruiz or when he'll be back, hopefully again sooner than later. But with that said, Your thoughts on how this offensive line played this past weekend?
Yeah, I thought, again, with Lemieux and then Lucas Patrick kicking back to his normal guard spot, I thought again, is it perfect? No, there's times when Carr was
makeshift offensive line.
Sure, but I mean, you're missing 2 starters.
Right.
One who I think in McCoy is a top 10 center in the NFL. Ruiz is, I'm up and down on, but he's a starter. Even if he's
better than what you have right now.
I mean, he's better than the backups.
Right.
And so, but I thought the offensive line actually held together pretty well. I mean, offensively, I don't think this, I mean, you scored 24 points. You moved the ball relatively well against a defense that's got some players and that can create pressure. I mean, the one interception was a fluky play. Judon got his hand up, and then it gets tipped right into Anderson's hands. I mean, other than that, I thought, considering it was makeshift and it was a massive concern, I thought they played pretty well.
And again, we'll see again how if they sustain that, again, with film on them, etc., how teams may attack them going forward. Again, but at least for one game, again, they played very well. I want to flip to the defensive side of the ball because, again, the defense was supposed to carry this team. We have not seen, again, the pass rush that we thought we would see. Again, the explosive plays. And then, again, not being able to close out games.
Yeah, that's the most disheartening thing, I think, right now. When Dennis Allen, Kirsten said it blanking rips your heart out. He's right. I mean, and look, I like Dennis Allen, and I think he's an amazing defensive coordinator.
Agreed.
The problem is when it just seemed that I always say this, we got spoiled. Peyton and Breeze, when you needed a big moment, 9 stepped up. And Peyton drew something up creative to put them in a situation to be successful. It just seems like now, when they need the clutch gene to kind of take over or something to go their way, it doesn't. I saw Jeff Asher provided some of these stats for us, the data analyst, that going back to Dennis's first year, 22 was that back-breaking game in Tampa. I mean, the Saints were going to win that game. Brady got the ball, game over, and it, for all practical purposes, ended the Saints season. I know they closed with some wins, but that was going into a bye, and that was an absolute backbreaker for the season. Same year, Joe Burrow, here in the Dome, gets the ball, goes right down the field. He was the alpha, though. I mean, he was a guy who had just been in the Super Bowl. He's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And then the last 2 weeks with Philly and with Atlanta, I mean, I get it. They're playing physical. The defense did such a great job. They didn't allow a touchdown. Yet, when you need a play, it goes the opposite way. The PI call on a Debo that puts them in the field goal range against the Eagles. You know, when you just need, they got to go 80 yards, and your guys, you know, bungle a play, run into each other, and it frees a guy up to go 60-something to get him in. It's just, you know, it's one of those things that it's head-scratching because for so many years, I mean, I go back to Meacham Miracle play. I mean, like, it just seemed like, boy, the Saints were on the right side of something good's going to go our way. Something's going to break our way. Drew's going to make a play. The defense is going to get a stop.
But you make your own luck in a lot of cases, right?
Yeah, and again, it just seems like we're talking about right now, we don't make enough plays in the clutch. Like we being, when I talk to the Saints players, it's like we just have to do, like we know we're a good team. It's like we know, like nobody thinks you're a bad team. Like you're way too good to ever go 4-13. But last year, they went 9-8. They could have been 11-6. They blew a 17-point lead to Green Bay. They missed a clutch kick at the end of the game. Foster, unfortunately, I hate to put it on one play, that touchdown. And again, that 11-6 means you run away with the division. You host a playoff game against a wounded Eagles team. And we've seen every year, like I look at that San Francisco team a few years ago that went to the Super Bowl with Garoppolo. They weren't great, yet they got hot at the right time and ended up in the Super Bowl. The same San Francisco team when the Rams went to the Super Bowl. They barely snuck in and knocked the Saints out Peyton's last year, and they ended up in the NFC Championship game. You know, once you're in, anything can happen. But the Saints, it's games like this. If they're 9-8, we're going to be looking back at this.
There's no doubt.
At this Falcons game, going, man, oh man, 10-7 would have won them the division. And it's frustrating because you feel like you're so close, but you just can't break through.
You feel like it again. The last 3 years, it's been like that for you. And again, here's another thing that I want to bring up before we move on to LSU, Tulane, and the Pelicans. The last couple weeks with Barkley and Algier, that they have gashed the Saints with physical running. And look, and a lot of people may be glazing over that. I'm not. Again, they're having problems with big physical backs right now, and that's got to be solved. Now, maybe you could say Demario Davis wasn't in the game, maybe he was injured, etc. But again, that starts up front, and they're not getting it done.
No, you're right. They're also not getting. for so many years it was like Cam's the dude.
Right.
And again, like I know Granderson's having a good year and Chase Young has been solid.
Yes, he has.
But there's not that, I think, this is our guy who we know is going to create pressure on the quarterback. And then you're right, stopping the run. Dennis Allen's teams were so good for so long. They had the longest run in the NFL of not giving up a 100-yard rushing game.
Yes.
And then things turned last year.
Right.
And now you're right. Some of these physical backs are just eating them up.
And I hope
now the good thing is Kansas City.
Right.
All their backs are hurt.
Sure.
So like I don't even know who. I think the kid Carson Steele or something. He was an undrafted player from UCLA. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that,
Right.
which bodes well for the Saints.
Right.
And in the secondary, again. I do think there's some matchups that favor the Saints this week.
Yeah, but they're a different animal again with Mahomes really
Right.
kind of mirroring a little bit what Hurts is with, again, guys that have the ability, mobility and the ability not just to be able to run and make plays, but to, again, the escapability in the pocket to open up things for their receivers because of the mobility where, again, they can scramble to not necessarily run, but to be able to make time, again, and make the defense have to be able to cover longer.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Mahomes' some of his greatest plays are like those playground
ad-lib plays,
yeah,
right.
that like on the playground. And it's like Kelsey, it's like, what is he doing? And next thing you know, he's sprung free for a 40-yard gain. So that's the one thing that worries me about, I hope not. If the Saints get gashed in the run game this week, we're in real issues here.
Right.
But the problem is like I said, the lack of a serious pass rush. If Mahomes keeps plays alive, I've watched enough games, we've all watched enough games, that those playground plays are going to burn you.
Right. Well,
and
again, you look at Hurts, what they did 2 weeks ago, they rushed with containment.
Yeah.
Right? Again, so they, you have to try to do that with Mahomes again, but again, he's
But there were times in that games against Mahomes where they sent the house and they didn't get there, and that created a numbers game in the secondary that hurt them. So again, like I said, I think the defense has played really well, though. I don't have a lot to say bad about the Saints defense, except a couple of plays.
You got to close out.
Right, a couple of plays at the end of the game. It's hard for me to argue, though, what Dennis is doing and how they're doing it. And same with offense. Like statistically, the Saints should be 4-0 or 3-1, but as Jim Morris said, I said it the other night, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Statistically, the Saints are where they need to be. When you look at these elite teams, all the metrics say, boy, they're better than 2-2, but they're not.
I called it undisciplined play this week, but it's really player error. I mean, that's been the issues for them. Again, players have made mistakes in clutch time.
Sure. Jordan Howden, got tangled up with another player, and then Paulson Adebo, half a second later, he probably knocks the ball loose, and it's a great play, but he did. I mean, it's clear pass interference, and so you're right. It's just, again, that's what's great. It makes the NFL the greatest sports entertainment product ever, or at least right now in the world, because all the games are close and all the games are decided, by fractions of seconds. Unfortunately, the Saints have been on the heartbreaking side of that.
The other part of that is, again, you worry about this team because of the cap situation. Again, the back end of this team, how good is it? Again, when you having the injuries you're having right now, again, how deep can you go into your depth and still be able to compete?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, they're already being tested. I mean, McCoy being out potentially 6 to 8 weeks. I know they haven't put a timetable, but that was the report from the NFL Network. I mean, who knows when Ruiz is coming back? Taysom may be out. I mean, I hope DeMario's back after a hamstring.
Matthew went out this past week.
Matthew went out this past week. I mean, look, Willie Gay looks like he may have had surgery. Look, I hate to jump to conclusions. I saw John Hendricks posted the picture from Willie Gay's IG, his Instagram story. I asked a doctor friend, he goes, looks like a broken wrist. It's like, if it's a broken wrist, I mean, he's not playing anytime soon. So, yeah, again, depth, they have gutted their depth.
Yes.
Like James Hurst is with us now.
Yeah.
They had to force him into a pay cut, which forced him into retirement because they've got to find money for other guys or for the cap situation that they're in, but that erodes your depth.
Yes,
and so,
it does.
Yeah, it does. And so, again, they are already in a precarious situation. And they can't afford to lose anybody else.
Instead of veterans at the back end of your roster, you've got undrafted free agents and rookies.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's true. Like, you've got Jordan Howden, you got Willie, JT Gray playing
or
safety.
journeyman.
Right. You got the special teams player who I couldn't tell you last time I saw him on the field for defense.
You don't want him on the field for defense.
And he's playing defense because, again, your depth is shot.
Yep, no doubt. Yeah. Fletcher Mackel with us, again, sports director at Channel 6 Sports. We'll take a break here, hear from our underwriters. We come back. LSU Tulane, and we're going to go heavy into the Pelicans as well. All that coming up here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Stay tuned.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Fletcher Mackel, Sports Director, Channel 6 Sports, is our guest. Fletch, let's go Tulane first. Again, big winners over South Florida, 45-10. They got UAB this week, 1-3. That's a noon kickoff. That's ESPN Plus, and that again is at UAB. Yeah. They're 3-2. They're 1-0 in the American. Dominant performance by Tulane. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I think that John Summerall and his team put the American Athletic Conference on notice because South Florida wasn't a bad team. South Florida, had played Bama and they played them close for a little while. They played Miami, played them close for a little while. Came in 2-2, thinking we're going to be the ones that make the statement in the American, and it ends up being Tulane just. Tulane should have probably won that Kansas State game. Horrible call by the officials at the end.
I agree.
Played super tight, at least for a while, with Oklahoma, which, again, was a solid performance. I think that game against Memphis, look, I think there's some good teams in the American, but I think that game Thanksgiving night, Memphis-Tulane is going to be a monster matchup potentially for who's hosting the conference championship game, all the marbles in the conference, and it could potentially mean the front runner for a playoff berth to put them in the driver's seat for it to get into the expanded playoffs. But his team is really good. John Summerall's a great coach. He is a guy we're going to be talking about, I think. Boy, Tulane had him for a few years, and now he's at Power 5 school, such and such, doing some great things because I love everything about him. Darian Mensah, going in that direction.
Unreal.
I know. And he just looks like he's a freshman.
Yeah.
How good is he going to get eventually? So, yeah, I like Tulane. I don't think they're going to have any problems with a UAB team that's 1-3. They only won their first game. They've been struggling. I know Trent Dilfer's doing some good things there, but I don't think there's going to be any hangover. I don't think there's going to be any hiccup. I think Tulane's going to go in there. I'm not saying they're going to do what they did against South Florida, but I think they are the cream of the crop in the American.
I mentioned this before we came on the air, and I mentioned on the radio show this week as well, that I really think there were real benefits in playing Kansas State and Oklahoma, because, again, you're playing against Power 4 teams. You did not come out of those games injured, and you got a chance to see, again, how you measure up against those teams. And I think they're battle-tested now for the American.
I think they're 100%. And they proved it. Coming out, early morning game, starting conference. Like I said, that's a statement that put the league on notice. And I don't look at their schedule and think, boy, I look at Thanksgiving night in Yeoman against Memphis, and I look at that and say, now I know Memphis stubbed their toe against Navy, and so Navy looks like pretty solid team, but I just look at it and say, I think this is going to be, I think this is it. I think this is the mega matchup that's going to determine a lot of things for Tulane. But I think Tulane's good, both sides of the ball. Look, getting Mario Williams looks like a revelation. The players he's added on defense and how they play and how physical they are.
They like Fritz's defenses, especially this past weekend, flying to the ball.
It was just watching it. It was just like, man, oh man. These teams are supposed to be evenly matched, and Tulane just ran up and down the field like they were playing an FCS program. And, that's why I said I think he put them on notice. And I'm not saying they're going to do that every week.
No.
But look, last year they were life and death in the first half with the UAB, and I thought, what is this? UAB was winning at halftime.
That's right.
And then Tulane stepped on the gas and ended up beating them in the second half 21-3, outscoring them and going on to win with ease. I think they're a far better team than anybody else in the American except Memphis, who's probably toe-to-toe with them. And I think we're going to be talking about that game on Thanksgiving night as it gets closer, it's with significant importance.
And if you do a deep dive on the roster, you got to realize again that Summerall was still putting pieces together after spring, especially on the defensive side of the ball. And then you look at that offensive line. Again, what Remitich is a returner. You got a couple, but again, that's a lot of guys that played elsewhere with a lot of playing time. But now they had to come together with continuity, and they've done it very quickly.
Yeah, no, look, again, that's the thing, is that he had a lot more new faces than people think.
That's right.
And so, look, anytime a coach leaves, open transfer, bringing guys in, there's always going to be, in today's college game, new faces because of the way the sport operates now. But yeah, and I think it said a lot, just what you said, that they were able to put it together so quickly with, I keep calling it Power 5, but those Power 4 programs. So look, I can't say enough good things about what they've done, how they do it. Tulane knocked it out the park with Summerall and this coaching staff. I will say, if they missed on the NIL because they gave a boatload of money to Ty Thompson, getting him not to go to a Power 4 program. But kudos to John Summerall, because the easy thing would have been to just anoint the guy we gave the bulk of our NIL money to. Instead, he didn't go with that guy or the guy who was the backup and started games last year and their bowl game. He went with the redshirt freshman that I didn't think was real when he kept talking about him in the spring and talking about him in the summer. But I think that says a lot about John Summerall, to know his team, know how to coach, and know what he's doing. It says a lot about, look, our NIL collective went in on this guy. He's not the best guy, and we can still pivot and we can still be pretty good. I don't think you can have that many misses year after year. Not that this is just 1 year. And I'm sure Ty Thompson will leave, and I'm sure Kai Horton will leave, because Mentz is going to be the guy going forward. But they have to make sure to be viable in their conference and as a playoff team, they have to hit with their NIL collective. And they did with Mario Williams, and I thought they did with Ty Thompson. I mean, he's a 5-star recruit, but obviously, next year, the guys that run that collective and the people that oversee that will have to make sure they target the right guys.
Right. And of course, Mentz is going to get a lot of that money as well. You remember, there's going to be some powerful.
There'll be a feeding frenzy for him to try to pull him out of Tulane.
There's no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about Tulane turning down the PAC, the Pacific Athletic Conference, and of course staying put in the American. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's a good move. I felt like, and I know there were people on social media go, you gotta go. Why do you have to go? Like, this isn't like the Pac-12 you grew up with or I grew up with. This isn't UCLA, USC, Stanford. This isn't some elite league anymore. This is the remnants, the two teams that nobody wanted, Oregon State and Washington State, and then the Mountain West. And it's the best of the Mountain West. I'll give them that. Maybe not UNLV, I would say, is probably still the best of the Mountain West. But San Diego State, Boise State, I mean, you're taking Colorado State, you're taking the primo programs from the Mountain West. But you have no automatic bid. Nobody knows what their TV
there's no guarantee there'll be an automatic bid.
No, there is no automatic bid for them. Like, they can't just say.
You can't say 2 years from now getting an automatic bid.
Right.
No.
And so, especially with teams like, there's just no way. And they don't have a TV contract yet. So
Americans got a better TV contract.
Right. So who knows what it's going to be?
Right.
And then you're going to add a ton of expenses to travel.
Made no sense.
So I'm not saying it made no sense.
Right.
I just didn't think there were people on social media going, you got to do it like as if, so to me, I would say Tulane needs to keep positioning themselves for ACC expansion or Big 12 expansion.
Exactly.
And I'm not saying that's going to happen anytime soon.
But I think it will.
But I think the ACC, look, let's just hypothetically say, if the ACC lost Florida State and Clemson, but they don't lose North Carolina, Duke, Miami, NC State. But like, if they keep it together, well, they're going to expand in Tulane, Memphis, South Florida. Like, these programs make perfect sense in the ACC. And even if the ACC wanted to expand with a new TV deal, that's Tampa, New Orleans, Memphis. Go add Temple, Philadelphia. You're talking mega markets for TV, for new deals. Go get UConn. Like, UConn is the best basketball program, men's and women's. Go get them. So to me, I think they were smart to keep building the American and wait. If there's going to be a move, the move has to be to a real power conference with more money and real tie-ins, not an upstart that's no better than you.
Yeah, I agree with you. And look, I think it made sense from the beginning because, again, the travel, the cost.
Yeah.
Not just, again, for again, the your top programs, football, basketball, baseball, but, again, your minor programs. I know that we're talking about an East-West division, and maybe you won't travel. But you get games starting at 9:30. People are complaining about games starting at 11 a.m. in the morning. And they're watching them at 9:30 at night. I do. You do. But, I mean, the average fan's not watching those at 9:30 at night. So, again, I thought it was a good move. And I think, again, you have to put money into your facilities. You have to continue to be able to get that collective rolling again so you can compete with NIL. And then you make yourself attractive for the Big 12 or the ACC. With that said, the bubble, again, now look like it's going to be relocated again. It was supposed to be ready for this season. It's not going to be ready now. They're going back to the drawing board. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so I have some strong opinions on this. The so-called bubble in front of the Riley Center was the dumbest, idiotic nonsense I had ever heard.
No room in a
I thought it was so stupid, like beyond stupid. Like the people that kept talking about this, I thought this is the worst idea I've ever heard. Like you actually have a space on your campus that all students use, that you use for tailgating, for festivals, for fairs, for walking around. If I was a student athlete in college, and I think it's stupid. Like, I would be opposed to that. If I was on a board of trustees, I would be like saying, whoever came up with this idea needs to be.
Does everybody use that field, right?
Yeah, everybody uses that field.
Right.
Everybody. Like again, it's a great location for. It's in the heart of your campus. So we're going to build a non-100-yard field. Like it wasn't even going to be. It was a half a field bubble for football only. And we're going to make the campus less beautiful, less useful for this nonsense. Like, it's insanity. It was the dumbest idea I've ever heard of. And I think Troy Danny gassed people up to think it was real. And Tulane people were kind of like, we need it, we need it, we need it. And I just think he kept spinning them on their heads. And I just kept thinking, I don't think this is happening. And this is also insanely stupid. To me, the smart idea, and I am not the smartest person in the room, but with some of those ideas, I know I'm not the dumbest, okay? But here's the thing. You have the Rose. I remember going to baseball games, and my roommates played baseball at Tulane. That Rosen house was a dorm.
Yes.
Okay. It's now the Rosen lot. It's a massive space behind the baseball field.
Right.
And I said, why don't you build?
Is it called the Claiborne lot now?
Claiborne lot, Rosen lot.
Right. Yeah.
And so it can 100-yard field.
Right.
You could do a whole athletic complex.
Right.
That's what you should be building.
Multiple tiers.
And here's the thing. Somebody goes, we have all the shuttle buses and the parking. Great. Build up.
a lot.
Like, here's the thing. I'm not saying change the surface. Build up. Loyola, 40 years ago almost, built a recreational sports complex. And the first 4 stories are parking. And the next 2, Olympic pool, gymnasium. Like, here's the thing. You can come up with a concept back there.
Right.
And again, you'll have to work with the neighbors. And I understand it's a more difficult process.
Yeah.
But I appreciate David Harris for getting rid of the nonsense that Troy Dannon fed everybody when he had one foot out the door.
Right.
And all these people bought it hook, line, and sinker for this stupid bubble. Go with a real plan. I get it. It's going to be years of building, years of working with the council, years of working with the neighbors.
Yeah.
But this is what a real AD should have been working on. Not just gassing people up for some nonsense, but that's the way to go. You could build a real indoor practice facility, offices,
performance center.
I mean, and you could still have more parking. People are like, you're taking parking away. I'm like, no, I'm not. The first 3 floors can be parking. You can create more parking. Like, that to me is the only viable spot for an on-campus facility or bubble. Like, and I've been saying that for years. For years I have been banging that drum, and people are like, the bubble, the bubble, the bubble. It's like, that's just the dumbest. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Right. Well, again, hopefully it'll get done. And to me, being attractive to a Power 4, again, also has to do with facilities as well and amenities for your athletes in order to compete. Let's talk LSU. 4-1. Open week this week after, again, dismantling South Alabama 42-10, and they're a great offense. They're 12th in the coaches, 13th in the AP. They've got Ole Miss next week. Talk about this team. Is this a top 12 team in your opinion?
I think sometimes they are. Like, so I always say this. I'm a big movie fan. Okay. I watch good movies and bad movies, and there's like a line. there was greatness in that movie. It needed to be re-edited. It probably needed some different aspects to it, but it could have been so much more. I see greatness in LSU's team. I mean, it's hard not to. Even when their defense has some holes. Right. I mean, I think Nussmeier's elite. I think they got some elite playmakers. I mean, that little running back is coming out is fantastic. And so I look at it and say, I see greatness. I see a team, and really the top 11, because that 12th seed is in the playoffs, is going to the non-Power 4 program, is an automatic. So it's not just top 12. If they're 12, they're probably out. They got to get to 10 or 11. And so, to me, I think they can get there. Like, I looked at Ole Miss last week against Kentucky. I thought Ole Miss was great. Everybody did. They hadn't played anybody. Well, like, I think LSU could pop them. Like, Bama is a different beast, but if their only loss is to Bama, and they're 10-2, I think that's going to get them into that conversation. If they beat Ole Miss and Oklahoma, who I don't know how great they are, good, not great. If LSU's only loss is against Bama, and Bama goes to the SEC championship game, and LSU's got a loss to a pretty good USC team and a really good Alabama team, like, I think that's good enough to get them into the top 10 or 11. I really do. So, but saying that, I think they could lose to Ole Miss. I think they could lose to Oklahoma. I think they could lose to Alabama. I've seen moments that make me think, like, it could just go either way. Like, I just don't know. You know, again, last year I thought Jaden Daniels in that offense, it was as good as Joe Burrow. And the defense was awful. Defense cost them a playoff berth, ruined the Heisman season. This year, I see the defense has improved. I know they are. It's not great, but it's improved. And their offense is still pretty great. So, like, I see enough to say I think they could be a 10 or 11 team. Yeah.
Kelly is moving toward, again, playing more of his younger players, which, again, I am in favor of. But with that, there's growing pains. When you look at this team, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, you've got Howard Perkins out now. Both Weeks and Penn looked really good last week. Sustainable? Yeah, I mean, look, key injuries. I mean, obviously, you know, Swanson has stepped up and done a fantastic job. Right. But again, look, their defense was already better but not great. So to lose a guy, even if his stats weren't off the page, you knew how good he was. They had the game plan. That's what I mean, and that's why I think other guys were having good seasons. So look, I mean, it's a significant loss. I think, look, I look at the rest of their schedule, and the SEC is a beast, and we see teams get upset. We just saw Ole Miss get upset by a Kentucky team that I didn't think was that great. So LSU could get upset by Arkansas for all I know. Sure. But I look at it and think they have enough talent, they have enough depth. Ole Miss, Bama are the games to me. I think they can beat Ole Miss. I don't know if they can beat Bama, but I think that, to answer your question overall, I think they have a path to the playoffs. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there with the Tigers with a bye week coming up this week. All right, let's talk Pelicans. One of the reasons I wanted to get you on this program today was I wanted to talk Pelicans. Okay. They have training camp right now in Nashville. It's been said that, again, this team has, 6 of the top 100 players in the NBA on their roster. Again, one of the big talking points in the offseason is the lack of maybe a true center on this roster and how they're going to play. What's the lineup going to look like? I read your tweet yesterday. Again, I talked about this on my show yesterday. Again, that there may be some guys that normally would be starting on this team that may have to come off the bench now. And maybe one of those guys is C.J. McCollum. I've also talked about maybe Brandon Ingram coming off the bench. You have a different idea. Talk about what you think this lineup should be going into this season. So I'll start with this. I hear all the chatter. Brandon Ingram's, I think the situation is a little bit more tenuous than they want to let on. I do think they have a good relationship, but he obviously wanted an extension. He didn't get it. He and his agent sought a trade. Nobody wanted to pay him. It never happened. So he's here, and he's in a tough spot because he's got to play well to get the big deal, but I think he feels like, why don't you, you know what I mean? So it's a tough situation. I don't see a world in any way, shape, or form that Willie, Grip, they would ever bring him off the bench, like ever. Like, I just don't see it, at least, early in the season. Like, there is just no way. Now, does he have a broken nail and he doesn't want to play? Maybe that's how he's going to act or treat it. I'm curious to see his level of commitment because he's already dealt with injuries that keep him out significant chunks of time. Right, which is one of the reasons why he's not getting paid. Right, and so, but I don't think there's a world where he comes off the bench if he's healthy, at least for this team. Right. I do think C.J. McCollum is somebody that
would potentially be best served, and this team would be best served to bring him off the bench.
Right.
He's been a starter since 2015. He got drafted in 2013. His first 2 years he came off the bench. He's been a full-time starter, 35-minute-a-night guy since 2015. That's 8 full seasons. That's a long time to ask him. I think he'd do it. I don't know if he wants to do it, but again, DeJounte Murray, I think, is obviously playing point guard. If CJ's next to him, can DeJounte protect him defensively? I actually like that because CJ played with Dame off the ball and did a good job.
Right.
I think that that's good. But then if you say CJ's a starter and BI's a starter and Zion's a starter, okay, is Herb on the bench now? And Tice is your starting center because Willie wants to go traditional? Do you not play a starting center and you say we're going to start DeJounte, CJ, BI, Zion, and Herb? And guess what? Herb's going to put his nose in there and he's going to guard centers because Zion doesn't want to guard centers and doesn't like guarding centers. So, again, a lot of questions. I think at the end of the day, in just my belief, Willie's going to go DeJounte Murray, BI, Herb, Zion, and Daniel Tice just to start.
Okay.
My concern with that lineup is you've got Zion in year 6, the best he's ever been, and you got no shooters in there. Like, DeJounte will shoot threes, but he's not a shooter.
Right.
Brandon can shoot threes, but he won't. You know, like, Herb has hit corner threes, but he's not a three-point shooter. Like, again, you've got Zion, and would you really start him without CJ or Trey? I am of the belief that Trey or CJ, one of them has got to be locked to Zion's hip and play their minutes with him.
And I think it's Trey.
To unlock the best version. So I tweeted the other night, why not a compromise starting lineup? Why not go DeJounte Murray, Brandon Ingram, Trey Murphy, who's 6'9", defensively, gives you great length, Zion and Tice, and bring CJ and Herb off the bench. Willie can go offense, defense right away, however he wants to deploy those guys. Like, I like Herb Jones, but Herb Jones isn't some alpha starter to me that has to be a starter.
But he does the dirty work for this team. And
he does a lot of dirty work. I agree. And he can come in for Tice after 5 minutes. I mean, look, Jonas Valanciunas started and played like the first 5 to 7 minutes, and he came right out. So there's nothing that says you can't start Tice and go to Herb quickly. You can't go to CJ. You can go to CJ quickly for Trey if you, or even for BI. You know, if BI's not getting like the 3 shot. So I'm just curious to see, because make no mistake, you're right. They got a lot of talent. They're going to win a lot of games. Like, anybody who thinks they're not going to be good is crazy. They're going to be really good. But getting those pieces to fit, and then in playoff series, when it does come down to matchups, they need to know who and what they are when they get to the playoffs. Like, a lot has been made of the Golden State death lineup. They started Kevon Looney, but when crunch time was there, Draymond played center, and it was Iguodala moving into a closing role or even a starting role with what they had there. And so they knew who and what they were and how to deploy it. That's, to me, what the Pelicans have to get to is what are the roles, how does it fit, how does it work?
Can Willie Green sell to his team that my starting lineup has to be interchangeable based on, again, the matchups that we play?
Again, I think that, but he could just start traditional, and he doesn't have to sell it that way then. I mean, look, Tice is a small center.
Yes, very.
But he could just sell it on we start who we start. We start a traditional big, even if he only plays 10 or 15 minutes a night, and then we match up based on what we see defensively, offensively, and we mix and match from there. And our closing unit is any of these 5 guys, DeJounte, CJ, BI, Trey, Herb, and Zion. That is always our closing unit. Like, we're closing with 5 of those 6. Who are they? I don't know. But we're closing with those guys. And I think he can sell that. You know what I mean? But again, like, here's the thing. Trey wants to be a starter. Should probably be a starter. Would be a starter on a bunch of teams. Fits perfectly with Zion. If he's got to watch this team struggle, like, not that he's going to pout or be discouraged, but that's a hard thing. You know, like, is CJ, I think he's the personification of class.
Agreed.
He'll do whatever, but does he want to go to the bench to watch BI take mid shots all day and kind of dribble the air out of it when he knows he could play off DeJounte and with Zion, and B, the guy last year he changed his whole shot profile last year. He took the most number of threes. He'd been a guy who averaged about 7 threes a game. He took 10 last year because they wanted more three-point shooting from him. So he did it, and I think he's going to watch this and go, like, I'm on the bench when I could be playing with B.I. and Zion, or with DeJounte and Zion, but I'm watching B.I. like refuse to take. He went from taking 6 threes a game to taking 3. And if he doesn't buy in, that could lead to frustration.
No, I would get it, but again, at the same time, I heard you say the other day that again Murphy may get $30 million a year.
He could.
Okay, before again.
Well, Schmidt said it.
Right. Okay.
Schmidt said
it, but it was on your program.
It was on my program, and I love Schmidt.
And I think he does a great job.
And he's plugged in.
Right.
I feel like Trey is more of like a $22 to $25 million a year guy, which is still great.
Yeah.
Schmidt is of the belief that he's going to be more like McDaniel is in Minnesota is, and get like that 27, 28, 29, 30, which is fine. But is that the guy you bring off the bench then, knowing you just paid him a big deal and he fits perfectly with Zion?
And B.I.'s might be with you again to the trading deadline or gone next year.
Right. Yeah, I know.
I mean, sometimes you got to pull the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
and again, if he. And then, of course, you want the buy-in from B.I., but again, there's no guarantee you're going to get it.
No.
Okay.
Again, that's what I mean.
So to me, you start Trey Murphy. Okay?
I agree.
Murphy plays better with Zion.
I agree.
Than B.I. As much as I could separate B.I. and Zion on the floor, I'm doing it.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. Willie Green does it. Willie Green staggers their minutes.
Right.
Like, look, they start together and they close together, but the rest of the time, all last season, they did a great job of staggering those guys because they don't do anything to accentuate each other and help each other become force multipliers for the greater good. So you're going to see a lot of that this year, but you're right. Maybe you just, and maybe that's it. Maybe it's Trey Murphy off the bench and he comes in quick for B.I.
The other part of this is how do you get a team that, again, that's not that's something that a certain way to play is not in their DNA, get them to do that. And I'm talking about rebounding as a team. This team doesn't rebound, okay? The guys that rebound are on other teams now, okay? So how do you get those guys to buy in that everybody's got to go to the boards?
Yeah, look, I mean, Jonas, at least he rebounded. Najee would get in there and rebound. Larry Nance,
right?
So
even Dyson Daniel.
You're right. Is a smaller playing big, and as a guard would rebound. And look, Josh Hart was a great rebounding wing, and they traded him years ago. You have to have guys that want to do it. To me, it's been one of the knocks. Luka is not going to fool anybody as a defensive master. I mean, Luka is an offensive force and one of the 3 greatest players in the league. But there's games where he has triple doubles because he rebounds. Zion has got to want to do it.
He should be a 10 rebound a game.
Like in the blink of an eye. So he's got to want to do it. Trey can do it, has to really embrace doing it.
He's got the size to do it.
Yes, has got to really embrace doing it more. So again, I am curious to see if you're going to play small a lot, how are you going to handle rebounding?
I mean, again, Brandon Ingram doesn't like to rebound.
No, I know.
So how do you get guys that, again, that just don't rebound to now be rebounders when you don't have the size?
Yeah, like I said, it's got to be the buy-in of you got to do it. Like we're playing small, and you got to crash the boards, and you got to be hungry for it. Like I know it's not per se your forte, but it has to be at least in your bag now.
Willie's got his work cut out for him. He's got to get a starting lineup and a buy-in from his team for guys. Again, you got 6 guys that can start, and you only can start 5. And then the other part of it is, because you're not that traditional big or that big, you got to get guys that, again, don't traditionally rebound to be rebounders.
Well, that's why I think Tice is going to end up starting. I've been saying it for weeks now. I think Tice is going to start because he'll do the dirty work right away, like kind of set the tone. He'll play defense. He'll put his nose in there against smaller guys. But he won't be in that
closing 5.
Oh, no chance. So but at the closing 5, I think that rebounding will be important, but that's when they'll need to buy in from these guys. That's why I don't think they're going to start a non-traditional 5. I think Tice is going to be their starting center, and he's going to be a guy that will set screens, play defense and get after it, and do his best to rebound, at least to start the game. That's
why I like Herb Jones in that starting lineup, because again, he does the dirty work. But again, we'll see what Willie's got up his sleeve here, because it's going to be an interesting season with the egos and everything that's involved in trying to mesh all this.
I agree.
No doubt about it. Fletcher, thanks for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me.
Certainly appreciate you joining us on the program as always. All right. So many ways to catch our program now. There's a QR code on your screen right now that will take you again to WLAE-TV YouTube page, also to my website. Again, remember, you can always watch the program on WLAE-TV, all Pelican Sports Television, and it's always available to you on the WLAE-TV YouTube channel. You can catch me on the radio 4 to 6 on 106.1 The Ticket. You can listen live at ericasher.com. Anchor, Spotify is where you can find our podcast, but we're on all podcasting platforms. 106.1 The Ticket now has an app, so again, you can download the app, take the station and the show with you anywhere. Other digital platforms, iHeartRadio app and TuneIn Radio app as well. Also, again, you can listen live at ericasher.com. All of these shows, all the shows, our shows here, are also on ericasher.com as well. Want to thank our underwriters who make the show possible. Please support our underwriters, and also, again, our folks here at WLAE-TV who produce our program. Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Chacon, and of course our director, William Hill. For Fletcher Mackel, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports.
Flowers bring joy into our lives, whether we're giving them or receiving them. The act of arranging flowers is actually soothing in itself. And then we double that effect when we give those flowers to someone else. Life in Bloom will show you easy ways to incorporate flowers into your life every day. I'm Jay Schwanke, and this is Life in Bloom.
Saturdays at 6:30 p.m.
Saturdays at 2 p.m.